I used to have it on here quite a bit a little while ago, if you recall. I saw this in, I think it was a Target, quite a number of, well, quite some time ago. I don't remember exactly. But I saw that, and it sure is apropos, and today especially. Okay, well, the lights are still making me look sunburned. I don't know, maybe I need to change the bulbs or whatever. I'm really not that red, but whatever. Hello, everyone. Welcome as you come in. This is kind of an impromptu. I didn't really have this planned, but uh, two major events have happened in the last couple of days that are indicative of where we are. And if you follow me on Twitter, I look fine. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. Yeah, I'm not really all that vain, but I wish I had a white balance on this phone camera because then I could make things look better. But the other day, you may have noticed I had a green background, my green screen, which I carry with me when I travel, along with a smaller map. But I put that up just for something different, and the light was so bright it washed me out. I thought, whoa, that's. Of course, I can't tell during the live stream. I see it after it's uploaded, and I thought, well, okay. But at any rate, so a couple of things have happened in the last few days that are extremely important for you to understand where the U.S. is right now. I almost hesitate to call us America anymore because we're a divided people to such an extent we're hardly America. Why would I say the United States instead? Well, because that's for those of you who understand the history of things, you'll know about the corporation of the United States. I'm not going to get into that here. That's really not what I'm about. But what I am about is bringing up a couple of things that have happened. First of all, pardon me, let me take another sip of this. You remember a few videos ago, I talked about Colonel McGregor, retired Army, who has been on Tucker Carlson and some other things a number of times. And as opposed to General Petraeus, who I think is, of course, is a not just a company man, but a New World Order man who even talked about the necessity of forgetting the Constitution of the United States and becoming part, America becoming part of the North American Union. I don't know if you remember all that back a few years ago, but he was pushing that. He is a Kissinger, Soros, etc., lackey. And I have no respect for Petraeus for a lot of reasons. But beside the point, Colonel McGregor has given a very good, I think, in my estimation, an estimate of the situation, an analysis of what's been going on in Ukraine and the situation with Russia, etc., NATO, etc. And I've talked about that quite a bit here and on Twitter if you've been following me. Well, in the description box below is the most recent statements by Colonel McGregor on the situation in Ukraine. And he has, in my estimation, has correctly explained that the Ukrainians are surrounded. 40,000 of them are now surrounded by the Russian army and can be destroyed in a heartbeat. So Zelensky supposedly is in some type of negotiations at this point. NATO is not going to get involved. There's been a lot of saber rattling and all that, but Putin has apparently checkmated NATO in this situation. Not saying that NATO and the United States won't do guerrilla warfare and more of the same sorts of things that we saw in 2015. But as I anticipated, Putin really didn't want to go anywhere else. He has no ambitions to go into Poland or any of that. The conditions were that they don't get involved, and then he might have to do something. He really wanted to take the two regions that he was concerned about away from Ukraine so that they could be brought back into the Russian sphere, and rightly so under the circumstances with all of the violations of the agreements that NATO and the U.S. have committed. Uh, I certainly understand where he is, as a lot of us have pointed out. The Cuban Missile Crisis is Ukraine in reverse. Okay, I'm not a Russophile. I'm not a Sinophile. But by the same token, we see where the United States has become arrogant in its weakness. It really isn't as strong anymore. We've been destroyed from within, economically, militarily, despite the supposed advancements that Trump made trying to build up the military. The fact of the matter is that the damage had already been done. Just like now, even if the entire medical situation goes away, read between the lines, so many people have been subjected to the treatment that it's just a matter of time before we see the damage from that, and it's happening already, but it's going to happen even more as time goes on. And even if it were stopped right now, and I've called for AJ, Alex Jones, to call out Trump on this thing, to tell him to stop supporting it and pushing it. But even if that was stopped today, the damage has already been done, and it's irreparable. We're seeing that progress now. Well, the same thing with the U.S.'s foreign policy. Some people think that Trump was really good at it. I called out a lot of things that I saw that were problematic. I'm not going to go there today, but I am going to say that certainly we've seen a division in the U.S. government that has been contrary to the interests of our people. Back in 2013, when the entire situation with the Boston bombing went down, I did an expose of that, explaining that this was partially, if not wholly, a fight between agencies in the U.S. government, that it was an effort to control the intelligence agencies, and that included the State Department. I explained that, and as a result, that's when the real attacks upon my person and my background got really nasty, to the point where I was accused of never having been in the Army, never having been an officer, never have been a lieutenant colonel. And then when they couldn't deny that anymore, they just started to disparage my service time. I knew that was going to happen, but I went ahead and put out my analysis of the situation anyway, and I've continued to do so, of course, all of this time. And one of the reasons, I came up with a business card that I could hand out to people, primarily ladies, when I met them. I decided it was just time for me not to give my last name anymore to people, because they would go on to Google and Google my name and see the bad information and not even have the courtesy to sit down with me and ask for an explanation or to let me tell my side of the story. So I insist now that they meet me somewhere where we can sit down and have a face-to-face conversation, and I can bring up my alliances and my advocates, and that way at least they have the full story, and they're not making decision based upon IC defamation, intelligence community and media and etc. defamation of my person. But be that as it may, I've been dealing with that for a long time, and as you know, I've continued to make these posts. And I've wanted to pull away for a lot of reasons, or at least not do it as often. And as you know, I get drawn back in. I saw a thing, and I put it up. I sent it to my family, I think, and maybe some friends. One of the things said, if God is working with you, and you have the spirit of prophecy, don't read into that more than I'm saying, okay? Just that idea, the Spirit of Christ is the spirit of prophecy, and you want to expound what that is telling you to others, expand on it and tell it, you won't be able to keep your mouth shut. and I think that pretty well describes me. I'm certainly verbose in other Another adjective of that would be loquacious, which I am now using on my business card, as a matter of fact. But at any rate, so even though I want to pull away, I can't. Things happen. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is that I think the Ukraine war, at least this stage of what's happening, the invasion, and all of that, Ukraine is going to be forced to go to the negotiating table. I think it's already there. And as Colonel McGregor has pointed out, the Ukrainian army, the 40,000 there in the southeast, I think is where it is now totally surrounded and can be totally annihilated by the Russians unless they surrender. So, and NATO is not going to get involved at this point. Why do I say that? Because Putin is coming from a position of strength, number one. Number two, the constant guffaws and foul ups between NATO partners and the United States. If you're paying attention today to the situation with the Department of State, Blinken, saying that Poland was going to send their jets, right? You all should know this, right? It's out now. And then the Department of Defense, Kirby, coming out and saying, "Well, no, we have a problem with that. It could get us into problems." What you see here is a disconnect, as I explained in my 2013 Boston bombing series, right? That there is an internal war in the United States between these intelligence agencies, which includes the Department of Defense. And when I talk about this, trying to get power for themselves, there's a scripture, and Jesus said it, but it's very obvious. A house divided itself shall not stand. And we have seen the destruction of the United States since at least 1963 when Kennedy was assassinated, but actually prior to that, for a lot of reasons, which I won't go into. It's been a steady thing since really the Federal Reserve, and you could even go back to the 1800s. But it's been a steady dissolution of unity. One of the principles of war is called unity of command. You cannot fight a battle, you cannot fight a war unless you have a unity of command, okay? And that is not the case, and has not been the case in the United States for a long time. And this disconnect in the last couple of days that we've seen between the Department of State, which is a rogue intelligence agency, is actually well, they're all rogue, but they're really bad. And I could tell you some stories about my interactions between the CIA and the Department of State, which is one reason why I was able to come out in 2013 and talk about this war between the different agencies for power. But regardless, this problem between the Department of State and the Department of Defense in this ongoing thing here, for all of the world to see, proves the United States is no longer a superpower and it has no unified direction. Not really, except the destruction of itself. Biden cutting off all of the oil drilling was no different than somebody slitting their own throat, supposedly for the Green Deal. Well, the Green Deal is untenable, and anybody who really studies it knows that it's not tenable. There are other forms of energy which they don't want us to have, but the Green Deal isn't it. That is another way to destroy civilization, and they know it. So we slit our own throat. The world saw that because China doesn't have to get involved in the Green Deal, right? There are a lot of other countries that don't have to get involved. It's only usually the Western so-called democracies, and that's about what they are. They are mob rule, basically, is what they are. But at any rate, the point of the matter is that they told us to slit our throat for the earth, and we did it. And it actually started a long time ago. Trump put on a show of trying to say that he was pulling out of that, but I don't believe it was ever sincere. And why do I say that? Well, I put this up on Twitter the other day too, and Stephen Coughlin of Unconstrained Analytics made a point that I was right. I put up that Ivanka is one of the young global leaders of Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum. She sits there. And a lot of people talk about Tulsi Gabbard and some other people, and that's true. But I always maintain it's by their fruits you will know them. I don't know what's in Tulsi Gabbard's head, but she's at least saying the right things. Ivanka never did. And Trump, if Ivanka is in the World Economic Forum, there's no way that DJT is opposed to her or what she's doing. And we already know about his contacts with Klaus Schwab and all of that. And what happened to us during this medical emergency tells me that either Trump is stupid or he's complicit. And I go with the complicity, okay, as you all know who have been here for a long time. So here we have this situation between Blinken and Kirby. In other words, between Blinken and the Department of Defense. Austin. Where's Austin these days? Blinken, the Secretary of State's out there talking about it. Austin's nowhere to be found. It's only his spokesman, Kirby, that's out there. Austin's a boob. He's a buffoon. Just like Milley. But at any rate, so he's not out there explaining, oh no, it's his spokesperson, Kirby, because there's this disconnect, and I say it was on purpose. Okay? It's to destroy the United States. It's to destroy America. And they're doing a hell of a good job of it. In that, they are unified. Where's Obama and Susan Rice? Did they goof this up? Probably. It seems like they did something. Hi, Liza Jean. They did something wrong there. Or it was part of the deal about taking the United States down. In any way, shape, or form, what you see here is not unity of command. What you see here is not anything but a house divided against itself. And so now we look like the paper tiger. We really are. I was on Twitter today, and some people were saying, well, you know, in a fight, actually Colonel McGregor said, well, our army is bigger than Russia's army, so they'd have a problem in a fight. And I pointed out in my tweets that sizes of armies aren't always the deciding factor in war. As a matter of fact, they often have very little to do with the end result. And I still maintain that Russia would kick our butt in an all-out fight for lots of reasons which I won't go into here. One person then pointed out, well, it's because of the technology of our weapons. And then I pointed out that the technology of Nazi Germany didn't help them that much, like with the V1, V2. Okay? And then our technology hasn't been very successful in Afghanistan or really Iraq. How did we deal in Iraq? You know, people were saying, oh, well, I'll just say it here. We have our military, our Department of Defense, which used to be the Department of War, which would be a more appropriate name, has not had a successful win since World War II. Not one. And again, it's by design. It's to steal our resources, our blood, and our treasure, and our land. We're giving our land away to the Chinese. If you don't know about that, you need to look at it. It was one of the deals that was going on at Bundy Ranch. Not to mention Uranium One and the whole thing of giving, you know, Russia uranium, which now we're buying back from them, unless that was on the. I don't think they included that on the list that Biden wanted to stop imports. But at any rate, so this entire thing is a big guffaw. It's a laughing stock. And it is to embarrass the United States, to make you not trust your basic where you come from, the legacy of what this nation was supposed to be. Those principles are still good, but the institutions that were supposed to support them have undermined that and even made it a crime to talk about the Bill of Rights and freedom and liberty. In so many ways, they've made it a crime. Look at what's going on in January 6th deal. At any rate, so here we are, state and defense at odds with each other. They can't get on the same page. And then it was interesting because apparently the White House came out today and said, well, we're thinking about sanctioning China too because they won't sanction Russia. And I did, you know, that little laugh face, that it tilts and it laughs, as it goes across. I put those emojis up there, and I said, yeah, right. Like that's really gonna get the Chinese upset. The Chinese know we're dependent upon them We have no manufacturing to talk about in this country, and even our finances are a wreck, et cetera, et cetera. China is not going to be concerned about any kind of a sanction. That's a joke, and really Russia isn't either. And as most of you know, they're pulling off the worldwide net. I think it's on March 17th. So beware, there might be some weird cyber attacks prior to that. You might want to get some cash on hand, some bartering. Uh, Items of some sort, commodities that you can hold on to in your hands. Things are going to get wild. Make sure you have your, some food storage, some water filtration, etc. Those things. If a cyber attack does go down, uh, you won't have police protection. Okay, you're on your own. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about to let you know where we are. I see the Ukrainian thing wrapping up here in the next little while. The big problem is, as I mentioned about 3 or 4 videos ago, if it was that long, that you'll trade toilet paper. That'll probably be a good one, actually. Uh, you're going to see China make the move on Taiwan. That I think now that they can see that there's this disconnect between state and defense, and Biden cutting off in a war you cut off your energy supply, so you have to try to get it from, and Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates told Trump, or told Biden to take a hike. Right? So now what? He slit our throats, ladies and gentlemen, but he did it. He's probably out of his mind, but he's following the destruction of the leftists, and of course the GOPs, the establishment GOP, that are actually, as Stephen Coughlin and Rich Higgins, God bless him and his family. Rich Higgins, of course, died about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. If you don't know about that, you might want to check into it. Great man. He and Stephen Coughlin were working together for quite some time, and they're both very intelligent men. And then there's Gigi Sims, who is giving out the information as well, talking about all of this that's going on. And we're in trouble, okay? We're in trouble. All right, so that was the first thing. The next thing is, of course, the whole thing with biological weapons in Ukraine. They've been lying about this for so long. You all should know about that now. A lot of us were talking about this entire situation for some time, and we were called conspiracy theorists, etc. Then when Russia said that they were able to find out about these labs, again, it was considered to be Russian propaganda. It could have been, and I was cautious at first. You don't jump on that bandwagon. But as time went on, we were finding out more and more information from independent reporters and people who had actually been there and seen some of these documents, etc. And then Department of State again, the Undersecretary for the Department of State, old Nuland. Where have we dealt with her before? Oh, on the color revolution that threw out the government of Ukraine and brought in the current one with Zelensky. In other words, it's okay if the United States overthrows a government, but oh no, Russia can't fix it for their own citizens and secure their own borders. Well, do you realize we went into Grenada? That was one of our successful operations, but talk about a joke. It was we were fighting Cubans in Grenada, and maybe some Grenadian soldiers too. If you don't know about the Grenada War, which is really, what it was, yeah, that was communists on our border, and we actually invaded Grenada. It was during the Reagan administration, 1983, 84, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact dates, but so there we are. All right, so we got upset with Cubans in Grenada and didn't like that. And of course, they supposedly took some hostages, some college students. And we use that as the excuse to go in. But regardless, we don't like those things going on our borders, around our territory. So why should Russia be considered any different? And I don't hold them responsible or in a bad light for being concerned about that, especially the history of NATO and the United States encroaching upon their territories, lying, accusing them of things they didn't do. over and over and over again. So Victoria Nuland, who was involved with Soros and was caught on tape saying exactly what they were doing in Ukraine on a telephone conversation, now testifies before Marco Rubio, little soy boy Marco Rubio, who I have no respect for. A guy like that who says, when Alex Jones comes up to him, I don't know who you are. Yeah, right, Marco, you little lying piece of crap. You know, I have a problem with AJ on some things, the major being that he won't call out Trump on this OWS thing definitively and condemning for it, because as it sits now, there's no excuse for Trump not to pull back on that. But the fact that he isn't shows that he's complicit. Well, I think as part of the WEF. Oh my goodness, he can't go against his precious little daughter. Now he's in bed with her, and I mean that not in a literal way, although there are people that will say that it is literal. But at any rate, the fact of the matter is, AJ needs to definitively cut the ties with Trump and Michael Flynn. As I've said before, there's no excuse for our supposed greatest intelligence officer to be caught blindsided by the FBI in the White House when he knew that the deep state was supposedly after Trump. I don't buy that story at all. Okay? And then Trump going along with all the stuff that happened, all that drama and theater. Well, at any rate, so getting back to Victoria Nuland, so here she is in front of Rubio saying, oh yeah, well, we had biological research and we're so afraid that the Russians are going to get our biological research. Come on. No, you've been exposed, Nuland. The U.S. Department of Defense has been exposed. Fauci and Collins have again been exposed. Probably get thrown off YouTube for this one. So in other words, we were right again. And the Russians had every right. Do you realize that what they were probably doing in those labs is figuring out a way to genetically attack the Russian people? Do you know how horrible that is? That's genocide. They wanted to destroy all those. The Russian people are wonderful by and large. Do you know any Russians? I do. And I love them. I really do. They're our brothers and sisters. They really are. Just like so many other people in the world. They don't deserve to be destroyed and annihilated by the NWO and the United States as the military arm that's going to do it. All right. That's kind of my update. I didn't put the information on Nuland in the description box below. I'm sure you could Google that. That was with the Marco Rubio thing, and it's all come out. I've had people send me the actual documents, and I'm careful with that because I really don't know about these people that exposed this initially about how accurate those documents are. But with Nuland finally coming out, I figure, yeah, that's exactly right. So the Russians were for a lot of reasons had to go into Ukraine to protect themselves. I'm not saying that's the best thing to have done, but frankly, as a military officer, a prior military officer, I can understand why they thought they had no other choice. That they might risk nuclear war, that they might risk a trap for Putin and the Russians, where they could be blamed for things that they shouldn't be blamed for, but that would put that would put them in a very, very weak negotiating position. But some things have been going on behind the scenes. Colonel Rob Maness, a retired United States Air Force colonel, was putting out information early on that he didn't think the Russians would invade. Well, it was a very good psyop and military intelligence operation that kept the actual objectives out of our view. Now, the intelligence people supposedly, and I believe this in the American intelligence agencies, were saying that they did know for a fact, and the White House was repeating this, that there was going to be an invasion by Russians, and a lot of us didn't think so. But then there was the call, the summit, the telephone summit between Biden and Putin, and that's when something occurred that changed the stakes for Putin. And it was then that a defeatist, I'm a defeatist Caesar. No, it's called realism. Your country is going to the pots. If you're an American, your country's in the shithole, okay? And it's getting flushed right now. I've been standing up to try to get people to do something about it, and people like you are the problem. So, getting off topic there, the point is something happened in that phone summit, I think. So I don't think Colonel Manus was incorrect, and I told him so. It was at that point that a change occurred. And then they decided they didn't have any other option. Okay? So we do have good military officers, both active and retired, but they're being squashed because we have evil, real communists, not Russian communists, real communists in our own institutions, authoritarians, Trotskyites who want Russia for themselves because they got kicked out of Russia. If you don't know that history, you probably need to look into it. So yeah, time for pitchforks. Yeah, tar and feathering and all that. Notice they've come out now. They want to pass this lynching law, and they're trying to tie it to racial things. Well, what they're really worried about is when we find out all the horrible things that our government's done, we're going to be wanting to lynch them, and righteously so. I've been calling it for decades. The intelligence community, the secret societies that run and that are the intelligence communities. In Mormonism, it's called the secret combinations. And yet now their church leaders tell them, oh, the secret combinations are the tobacco and the alcohol companies. No. I hope you Mormons that are listening to this don't buy that. It's the banks and it's the intelligence agencies. And of course, the New World Order, Rothschilds, the House of Windsor, which is really a bunch of Nazis. And then some of you who are German files, that's not the right word, but will say, right, you don't understand the history. The victors write history, and Hitler wasn't all that bad. Look, my mom was there, okay? My dad was there. They know, all right? I had it from the horse's mouth. I'm not saying that Hitler wasn't goaded into that, but there were some horrible things that were going on. I mentioned earlier, V1 and V2 rockets to just kill indiscriminately. Come on. Now, yeah, we had bombed, not we, the British had bombed Dresden, which was a total war crime. I know all that. All right? And I'm not saying that Britain and the United States were wholly without fault, because they worked it that way. You know how the bankers work, and we swallowed the lies. All right? So I'm not excusing that. All right? I hope you understand. But anyway, so that's where we are. And as it turns out, I've been right about the intelligence agencies, and that, like the motto of my channel, you can see it in quite a few places on the moniker and some other things. The intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and it's proven true 100%. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen, because nobody's going to do this but us. How? I'm not sure. I think, as I said to John Cardillo today on a tweet, if you don't know who he is, he's a retired New York City police officer, detective, I think. I said, this is really done. Look at how the GOPs, the GOP establishment, went along with this spending bill. And they do everything the Democrats want them to do. They are, as Stephen Coughlin and Rich Higgins have talked about, they are the defeat mechanism for the Democrats. Not meaning that they defeat the Democrats, but they are the weapon. The Republicans are the weapon the Democrats and the communists and the tyrants use against us, because we think that they're conservatives, they're going to protect us in our rights, and they're in there to do just the opposite. Just like Trump did. Bring us along, thinking that we had a hero in there, and then what did he do? Red flag. laws, bump stock bans. Uh, I could go on and on. Economically, he did some good things, but he was setting us up so that we'd have the good. Biden had come in, everything would get destroyed. And now what are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? What are we doing now? We had Trump, supposedly this great leader, and now we're shown this horrible thing going on with Biden and all this. What's everybody looking for? What's everybody looking for right now? Trump. They're looking for Trump. Trump's going to be the big savior. Now, he has some problems, but I think he's going to recover from those, and he is going to come back just as I have talked about. And also, there was a Twitter follower. I also have his, I think it's a Substack or a website. But anyway, he went by the name Michael on Twitter. And he and I were pretty much saying the same thing. He's a Roman Catholic, by the way, which of course I'm not. But on this thing, we understood. Yeah, he was chumming the waters. Exactly. Yeah, Trump was chumming the waters. And so Michael and I were calling this out very early on, even though, we don't see eye to eye on the religious, spiritual things. But that doesn't matter. See, we didn't call each other names or anything. We used each other to try to understand what the big picture was. Yeah, we are in deep stuff. That's absolutely true, Matthew Silva. Okay. Maybe I could take a few questions. I tried to cover that as quickly as I could without missing too much. Um, you're looking for a leader who wants to save America? Well, good luck. Good luck. I don't think America's going to be saved. If you believe in the scriptures, it says that the Lord's talking and he says, I will bring an end to all nations. He doesn't make any exceptions. Now, the New World Order, people like Schwab and Kissinger and et cetera, they consider themselves the Messiah without metaphor. I've talked about that concept for a long time, okay? And they think the way they're doing it is the way it needs to be done. Do they know they're evil? They don't look at it that way. As you already know, they think that we're cockroaches and we need to be stomped on and squished. The Lord uses the evil to chasten his children. I've used this thing with Russia in Ukraine and as a threat to NATO exactly the same way that the Bible talks about Assyria being used by God to punish Israel in its wickedness and hauling them off to lands unknown. They became the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Okay? And then Rome destroyed what was left of Judah. Actually, it happened before that, but at any rate. So, God uses, and he even says, the wicked will destroy the wicked. It's not God doing it. Not really. What he's doing is he's just taking his protection. He just withdraws from you. You withdraw from God, and he says, okay, you're on your own. The Assyrians are going to come and kick your butt. The wicked will destroy you, the wicked. It goes both ways. And even Jerusalem's called Babylon. America's Babylon. And we're being torn apart because we've killed 60 million babies. Maryland, what did Maryland just do? The state of Maryland, what are they working on right now? Can somebody tell me what they're working on right now? Yeah, the USA is demonic at this point. They're run by demons. We knew we were in trouble with this Ukrainian thing and that it was the cover for child sacrifice, et cetera, all that stuff. Because who? Mariana Abramovich and Alex Soros said we need to get involved in Ukraine, and their words were to save our order, to save our people. That meant them. They didn't mean you. They didn't even mean the Ukrainians. Yeah, postnatal death. Babies after birth. Yeah, up to I think it's a month old. Might be 3, I don't know. But the point is, it's after they're born. Yeah, she's Abramovich is the spirit cooking lady. All right. So when you have people like that supporting our incursions in Ukraine, what the hell are people like Marco Rubio and Mitch McConnell doing? It's because they're on board. Yeah, post birth abortion are basically murder. Yeah, it's basically murder. Yeah, and Maryland's a Catholic state. It used to, at least it used to be. Boy, they sure got in there and destroyed that state, didn't they? I was born and raised in Maryland. Did you know that? Yeah, it's true. Bliss. Is that Bliss Bliss? Is that who that was? It is. Hi, Bliss Bliss. Long time no see. Yeah, Lindsey Graham, you can add to that. I tried to get a hold of him. Didn't work. Okay. Any other questions here? America is in the middle of being judged. And it's like I was talking about John Cardillo. I was saying there's no hope that the federal government will be restored to its proper function. The states are going to have to get a divorce from, and yeah, it's civil war. Yeah, I know that. Well, it's war between. It's actually I guess it really is a rebellion, but we have no choice. And I don't think any of the states are really going to do that. They're going to just go down with the ship. So I don't know who we're going to depend on here. God's going to pour out a spirit upon all flesh, and we'll be able to see as we are seen, and we're going to have to bind ourselves with like-minded people. Patriot Nurse put up a pretty good video the other day talking about getting prepared, getting with people that are like-mindedness, and taking care of the bees, the beans, bullets, and band-aids. Unfortunately, that's where we are. And you're not going to be able to trust your local law enforcement, I'm afraid, and certainly not the military. At least not the military that's not being thrown out because they won't do what. Again, I got to be careful how I choose my words here. They won't submit themselves to the treatment, or they won't go along with the CRT and the woke business. So the good people are getting thrown out, which again makes us a paper tiger. Think about trying to replace all these highly trained operators. Not possible. Even our technology won't save us. Won't happen. Yeah, March 11th. Was it 11th or was it the 17th? You might be right. It's somewhere in there. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Felicia, how you doing? I know I'm in trouble. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. It was right at the moment. I didn't even tell Roosevelt. I figured I had to get this done quick. I usually don't do this on Wednesdays. I've actually got family here. I've got to do some things with them, but I just had to put this up right now. Please keep talking, Molly Brown. Wow, that's very kind of you. Yeah, that's right. High voltage, exactly. See, that's what Abramovich is talking about. And anybody see what high voltage said here? I don't want to say this. Okay, look at what high voltage says. Ukraine is involved in. Okay. Yeah, trafficking and all that. That's right. And some other really nasty stuff. It's a cover. I mean, Soros went in there. He overthrew the country, and so did Victoria Nuland. They admit it. They brag about it. And now Nuland's saying, "Oh yeah, we do have biolabs there." Ooh. Uh-huh. Oh, Maryland's a beautiful state. Blue crab. Oh yeah, all of that. It's a beautiful place, but yeah, it's my home state, like where I was born and raised, and it's just it had problems when I was there, but it's even worse. Bobby Wells, Roy, what do you think about Biden's executive order on the new Fed crypto? Well, obviously it's bad. They're using all kinds of excuses. Look what they did to the truckers in Canada. Look what they're doing, elsewhere in the world. It's about control. So they'll know where you are, what you're doing, what you're spending your money on, and if they don't like what you're doing, They do what they did to the truckers. Up, switch off. You can't get any money out. Obviously, it's bad. But this is where this whole thing was headed. We've been warning about it with the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell. All of that stuff. We've been warning about it. And I'm not going to repeat all of that here because, some of those things I say can get the Uncle algorithm all upset. And it probably will anyway. Okay, let's see here. Am I at peace with all this? I got, that's who, DS 88. I can't tell God how to do his job. All I can do is ask that he protect the innocent. And that's not going to happen either, because it says that the wicked are going to not just destroy the wicked, but they're going to kill a lot of God's children, God's people. Imprison them at the very least. And they're in the process of doing that now. Person told me, Roy, you're not supposed to fight this. You're supposed to only preach or talk about godly things. That's kind of what they were saying. And I quoted to them some scriptures that say that's not true. You're supposed to do good. You do stand against evil. You do reveal the evil. That's what the apocalypse is, the reveal. We are supposed to do that. But we're supposed to do it from a position of wisdom and, the serpent and the dove situation. Right? So that's why I guess I keep doing this. I try to back off, but as that one person says, you have that spirit in you and you can't keep your mouth shut. So, but am I at peace with it? I'm uncomfortable. And I've asked, as you all know, I've asked you to pray for deliverance and a place of refuge. How that'll work out, if it does, I don't know. We may not be able to get that blessing, but I do want it. But am I at peace with it? I'm uncomfortable, but this is God's work, and I can't tell him how to do his job. I can only do the good that I can do. You've heard the statement, God bless me that I may change the things I can, and the things that I can't, understand that I can't, and yet go on, right? I can't remember the exact quote, but you know what I'm talking about. I'll take a shot with Royston. I don't have. This is water. Sorry, I don't have any scotch or anything right now. You may have just convinced me to go get some, though. This has been a hell of a day. Hey, shout out from Maryland. Hey, cool. Mac Mark, Mac MK, Mac Mark, I guess is what it goes by. I wish I could ask you what part. Just so you know, I grew up in Hyattsville and College Park. Okay, right outside of D.C., right around the University of Maryland there. So, but I, of course, went all over the state. I loved Ocean City. I spent a lot of my summers there, obviously. But I'd been in the Blue Ridge Mountains over in Virginia, too. I'd spent a lot of time over there. Went downtown D.C. to the mall. Went through a big thing when I was in high school is I'd spend a good portion of Saturday going through the different museums, the Smithsonian. That's when I started knowing something wasn't quite right, because their explanations of things didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Ukraine has a history of major division. Oh yeah, sure they do. The entire all of Europe is that way. That's why our founding fathers said to stay out of European conflicts. Don't get involved with them. Right? Well, yeah, Ukraine, the whole. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to spend a whole history lesson here, but of course. Yeah, exactly. Paper crafting adventure. Yeah, and you're exactly right. And now the United States is being balkanized, like I've talked about before, right? What happened to Yugoslavia is happening to us. And I don't think God's going to show us any mercy. I think he's going to let us be destroyed because, again, as I pointed out, I will bring an end to all nations. Didn't make any exceptions. Which lever action is better, 4570 or 308? Well, you can't really compare the two. The 308 is usually a Browning used to make the clip because you can't put the spire point bullets in a tubular magazine. The recoil might have the spire point of one of the 308 bullets ignite the round in front of it, and then you'll have the whole gun will blow up. It depends on what you're going to do. If you're talking about like a Browning or a Henry, I think Henry makes a lever action based on the Browning design, which is a magazine fed, so you don't have the problem of the rounds stacked up against each other. If you want something with a little longer range, the 308 is sending out, and of course it depends on the particular weapon that you're using, but about a 2,600 feet per second, right around there, 150 grain bullet. Okay, and its flight trajectory in a 308, especially with boat tail bullet, is pretty good. It's pretty long range. You have an effective range in that thing of easily 500 to 600 yards, but you can reach out further than that. So it depends on what you're doing. The 4570 is a 45 caliber bullet. About the normal load is 400 grains, where the 308's 150 to 180. You can get 200 and 220, but I'm just talking basics here. 4570, 300 grain bullet, 400 grain bullet, moving at about 13 to 1800 feet per second, depending upon the loading that you're using. It's real good for short range, up to about 200 yards, but the drop is significant. Okay, you sight it in for 100 yards, and it's going to drop, probably 18 inches at 200 yards, something like that. I don't remember the exact ballistics, but it depends on what you're going to do. If you live, frankly, if I lived in a mountainous area like in Montana, over around Troy, Libby, that kind of area, I'd probably carry a 4570. If I lived in a more open area, still with woods or whatever, but more open area, a 308 would probably be my choice. But frankly, if you're talking about self-protection, if that's what you're going to use it for, either one would be fine. Actually, in my own preference, I'd probably take a 4570 for that. As a matter of fact, they're very good. You can load them up at different loads, and so that it can do a lot of different things. But anyway, which lever action is better? It just depends on how you're going to use it. But I think I gave you a little bit to think about. Scotch, what kind of scotch? Doesn't matter as long as it's not blended. Although there are some blendeds that I like. It depends on which one you're using. Buchanan's I like as a blended scotch, but I'm pretty much a single malt guy. Glenfiddich is my go-to, Glenfiddich 12, but I've got quite a collection actually. I've got Glenfiddich. I've got I always forget the name of this. Dalmore. I don't know why I have a hard time with that. I've got Glenmorangie, Lafroig. I've got quite a collection of different ones. So it just depends on my mood, or the mood of the people that are with me. What type I get. Yeah, J-Hal or A-Hal, that's what I was talking about. They're going off the World Wide Web, and they're getting off. We're making a big deal about we're going to attack their or we're going to cut them off from our financial system. They've been on that road for a long time. That's no threat to them, and they'll just turn to China. And we're gonna sanction China for not sanctioning Russia. We've got morons running our government. Total morons. We're in the tribulation. We're not entering it. We're well into it at this point. And again, a lot of people want to make a big deal about the 3.5 years and the second 3.5 years and all that. You got to understand that biblical scripture is not written in linear fashion, so you can't get stuck on using a linear timeline. It's circular, alpha and omega, the aleph and tav, the beginning and the end. It's a circle. So the numbers have deeper meaning than just the 3.5 years. For instance, the age of the patriarchs. 980 years, I think it was for Methuselah. Those are all meanings that have to do with what they did, what their calling was. It's not necessarily that they lived that long in our terms. Okay, so you got to be careful of that. All right. Yeah, we don't have any real leadership, Hal. You're right. I mean, the leadership we have has taken us down to, as I said before, the crapper, and they're flushing it. We're in bad shape right now. And all of you, Patriot Nurse is a sellout. Why would you say that? Because she went to CPAC? Look, don't be that closed-minded. Yeah, she's got a Jewish background, but she's very biblical, the New Testament as well. She's very knowledgeable. She knows medical stuff. Why would you throw her out as a sellout just because she has some? I mean, even with AJ and his unerring support of a mass murderer in Trump, and that's how I look at it. He's not a complete sellout. He's still giving you good information. You have to just have the discernment, the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and know when it's right and when it's wrong. That's why I like a lot of the information that AJ puts out. Somebody pointed out to me the other day that it was the book The 300 or something, not the 300, the Club of Rome or the Club of 300, something like that, that Alex uses to give all of his information and kind of bounces everything he finds off of. But that's okay. That's not a problem. And so what if he made a media outlet, based on that? That doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm glad he got the information out. My problem is that something happened when he got behind Trump. And I've sent, get this now, I've sent tweets about this whole situation with Trump and the OWS, and that it's unforgivable, and that if Alex doesn't do something about it, that he's going to take some of that on himself, the murders and the maimings, because he won't tell Trump to stop. He just at least has to call him out, and not mildly, oh, we're hoping that Trump is a good guy and that he'll repent and he'll come back and he's going to do us a good job. No, Trump's done. Anybody that holds on to Trump at this point, you better be careful of. So I tweeted out because I can't get a hold of Alex. He used to, I got information. He used to watch a lot of my posts, and I think he still is. Because it's interesting. I'll say something. Now, it could just be the Spirit speaking to us at the same time. I don't know. But I know sometimes when I talk about something, he talks about it the next day. So I don't know. I heard that he was watching me. As a matter of fact, they carried my reports on the Boston bombing. But they threw him off of there because he didn't want to be associated with me. I'm some bad guy because of my personal history. Forget about my experience. By the way, I really like the term, and you can spread this around. I really like it. I saw it the other day. I'm going to use it. There is no substitute for experience, and that's really true. And that's what I've had. I've just had tons of experience. A little different than him, but still it's applicable. But at any rate, so. I couldn't get the information to him, so I've been using Christy Lee, at John Bound Politic. That's John Bound. You hear his reports, and he also goes by Newsbound. Adon Salazar and Darren McBrain. So I've been sending them stuff for months now, saying you got to get Alex in line here. He's way off on this support of Trump, and all of you are. He's no savior. He's proven what he is, and Ivanka Trump being on WEF. Are you kidding me? And not saying the things that Tulsi Gabbard's saying. I'm not saying I totally trust Tulsi, but just because you were part of an organization, like I was in the U.S. military. But I'm not spouting New World Order stuff just because I was in the military. So maybe Tulsi has seen that. On the other hand, Ivanka's pushing the WEF stuff. Everything. Which means Trump is really going along with it too. But don't throw Patriot Nurse out with the bathwater. I think that's premature. Okay, I have a lot of respect for her. Nobody's going to agree 100% with anybody. Is a small hat? I don't even know what that means. No person on this knows who Jeffrey Prather. Yeah, Prather. You talking about the Prather College and the pastor? Is that who you're talking about? Yeah, Dabu Seven's on top of things. I've been real impressed with Dabu Seven, especially in the last little while. He's been really keeping track of stuff. Yeah, Dabu Seven's a good one to follow, in my estimation. Roy should. Oh yeah, I'd meet with him. I met with my sheriff. Oh, absolutely. I think that's a good thing to do. You find out where they are. I'm not saying they'll follow through with what they say, but at least you'll get an idea. And if they'll form a posse with you people and deputize you, and so that if an emergency happens, be it the feds going nuts or the whole country falls apart and you've got wandering bands of bandits, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Patriot Nurse is coached. Well, I don't know about that, but even if she is, so what? Roy does drive-by lies. I said, Gene, you're so funny. You've been here since the beginning. Thanks, Felicia. I appreciate that. Like I said, I didn't tell anybody. I shouldn't even be on this long. It's been an hour already. I can't believe I've been doing it that long. Oh well, thank you, Imperial Jade. Yeah, I remember seeing you. I do. Okay, let me speed to the end here. I didn't really want to come on and answer things on the chat, but I thought I'd better do a little bit. Yeah, Victoria Nuland is dangerous. She's a Soros operative, and of course Obama is right in there. They're all traitors. Oh, I'm glad I look up. Yeah, I could be lighthearted sometime, even in the face of danger. Oh, I could tell you some stories when I was on the police department and in the army. Um, yeah, but I can't because you wouldn't believe it. All right, and I've kind of hinted towards it a couple times, but you wouldn't believe it. I have a very dear friend still. I've known him since I was in the Murray Police Department, and I asked him one time if he'd come on and do a live stream with me and talk about our adventures together, so he could verify, you know, what I'm like and what I've done, etc. He could tell you some really crazy stories. But I can understand why he doesn't want to do that, and I'm not going to explain why. But I just appreciate that he stayed my friend for all these years. And believe me, if he ever did come on to a live stream or even a recorded, discussion with me about our association, he would verify a lot of what I've told you about myself. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, what you see with me is what you get. You know, um, I was watching Yasanya. I'm very much into these spiritual. I know people think Reiki and all those things are of the devil. Well, don't go too far down that road. Everybody's at their level of understanding, and they might actually know something that you don't know. I know, all the deceiving spirits and the devils, and I know. Well, anyway, if you go listen to Yasanya, holistic Reiki, I think is what she ASMR. Yasanya, I talked about her before when she did the thing about um, finding out what your mission is and complete it. I talked about her, and she's just a delicate, sweet, wonderful spiritual person. Even if you don't agree with her particular thing, and yeah, I do listen to her quite a bit, and I appreciate the things that she does. She's Native American, Mexican, Nicaraguan, and something else which I don't recall now. So she's basically from a long line of people here in Central, North, Central, and South America, Central America, I guess. Um, I think South America too. But at any rate, um, Yasanya is, and I forget what I was getting to. I went along too long explaining about her, but the point is I study a lot of things. I even talked about some Hindu things the other day because they apply. Because they apply. Sorry, I got off track there. I was trying to explain her. So, Rory, what do we do? I've said it all along. There's nobody out there that's going to save you. You can say Jesus is coming, But I've shown you before what that has meant in history and what it probably means today. If you want to believe that Jesus is going to come and stand and put everybody bad down, okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But what it really comes down to, what you need to do right now, and I say it all the time, prep, pray, stay out of the way. Come out of Babylon. Don't take a part in their plagues. That doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. But if they want to take your sons and your daughters and send them off to this war that they're trying to do, I think it's been nipped in the bud now, but you never know when it might kick off again. You say no, and you defend your kids with your life. All right? End of story. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Come out of Babylon as far as you possibly can. If you can go off in the woods and have a commune, imagine that word, community, where you all work together. Everybody has a little task that they do, a little special skill that they have. WUF. I'm not gonna repeat it here, Wendy. I'm not going to tell you what it stands for. I may have already done that by accident. Somebody tell Wendy H what WEF is. Yes, I miss Nancy Morgan Hart as well. Russell West, very, very much. You have no idea how much. Yeah. Bettina Ursula Brancato. If I'm not careful, I'll bring Felicia to tears here. So, just know I miss her a lot, an awful lot. BRICS is coming back. That's a good question. Chai Girls channel. BRICS kind of faded away when Trump came in because they thought, well, okay, well, it looks like he's going to take down this thing. But then they realized that it wasn't going to work, so BRICS is coming back. That's why Russia is doing their own financial thing. They're doing their own internet. That's going to happen soon. They're making deals with China to handle their financial transactions. So, yeah, it's coming back. And I'm sorry. It's going to destroy the petrodollar, which is really destroyed now already. Biden's totally destroyed the petrodollar now, so it really doesn't matter. And the American system, the Federal Reserve System, it's you have the two beasts of Revelation. You have the beast, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of this. And each beast has multiple heads. One has 7, one has 2, right? That whole thing. So they're all fighting against each other. I just pointed that out today. The wicked will destroy the wicked. You have the Defense Department and the Department of State at odds with each other. They're not even talking. That's what's happening. Okay, all you got to do is just ride the storm. It's going to be tough enough to do that. When things fall apart, you've got to be able to get through 3 months minimum. 3 months. Some people will say 3 weeks. I think that's risky. I'd say you need to be able to get through 3 months of trouble. And if you can make it to the other side, you're probably going to make it. Okay? That's what I would say to do. So prep, pray, stay out of the way. And like I say, prepping means have a minimum. Something that'll carry you through for 3 months if everything goes down. Okay, I already answered that question. Tucker is calling out the biolabs. About time. About time. Good for him. And I figured he would eventually. People were asking if he was going to talk about it. And the next thing he needs to talk about is the 9 pages of somebody fill in the blank, the bad reaction list, right? He needs to talk about that too. And there's no excuse for Trump not to know about it. So he's complicit with maiming and murdering people. And again, Alex, you've got to totally cut your ties with him. Totally. And call him out for the demon he is, worshiper of Moloch. You better do it, Alex. Everything else I can handle with you. Some of your bravado, you're constant. I understand you need to make money, so you're out there, you're trying to sell things. I swore it was more like one continuous run-on commercial with your program, but I'm not going to hold you down there. But on the Trump deal, I can't let you skate. You got to disassociate with him. You got to condemn him because people think that he's a savior and he is not. Hey, Hal, are you saying that AJ has proven himself? I have no doubt that he'd do the right thing in a fight. The problem is he wants access and financial support staying tied to Trump. You can't do that. He has got to disconnect from Trump. End of story. No ifs, ands, or buts. No excuses. He's already given them the chance. He said, what, 2 months ago? Trump, you need to come out, and maybe further back than that. You have to disavow OWS. You have to. And then we'll forgive you. And it hasn't happened, anyhow. And it's not going to. Or if it does, it's going to be disingenuous on Trump's part. I can tell you that right now. Okay? He will betray you again. In that regard, I'm not getting in a foxhole with Alex if he's going to have Trump sitting next to me. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Obama's the AC? We'll see. You know, he had aspirations of becoming the general secretary, I think is what they call it, of the UN. At this point, he doesn't, I don't see him being the AC. The AC has to be somebody that has a lot of, he can fool the elect. He's trying to fool the elect. Obama never really did that. Trump did. And Trump is being held up as the Cyrus, as the one of the sons of light. An area of the Golan Heights was named after him. All of these different things which point to the whole deal with the temple, all that. Trump's more of a candidate for that than Obama is, I think. Somebody's trying to slam me here. Pelosi wants a hot date with me. I could tell you a story about that, but I can't, not here. All righty, let's see. Marfool's gold. The whole idea of the clouds is imagery that has nothing to do with the clouds. I don't know how to explain it to you any other way. That actually came from Daniel, and there was some also to do with the book of Enoch, but Daniel was the primarily one about the Son of Man and the clouds of heaven and all of that. It's imagery. It has nothing to do with actually being seen in the sky. But I did a video on it. Look at my religion playlist. I talked about it there, and I talked about it on the Eisenman series as well. That's allegorical imagery that the first century, especially depending upon the book of Daniel, that they depended upon the book of Daniel for that imagery, the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven and glory. That's all allegorical imagery. Yeah, I put that RTW rec status. Yeah, I put that out on Twitter, and then some people didn't believe me, even though I had the thing from WEF showing it. So Stephen Coughlin came on Twitter and said, "You don't have to believe Roy. Go to the White House website, and you can pull up Ivanka Trump there, and it's in her Vita. It's in her Vita right there on the White House website." I don't care if he did. The demons acknowledge Jesus Christ, second wind. There's nothing about Jesus Christ, the name or anything. A lot of people think it's, if somebody says Jesus Christ, they can't be a devil or they can't be a demon. Quite the opposite. Many shall come in my name and say that I am Christ and deceive many. No. Stating the name or even acknowledging Jesus Christ, even the demons do that. Okay? Be careful. That's one of the signs of the AC. One of the signs of the AC. Of course, he's going to flip it and say he is Christ. But anyway, that's... Yeah, I know. And you're right, Robert Stahl. Hi, Robert. I see you on Twitter all the time. Yeah, Nancy Morganhart did not like Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, I understand why, but I do, and I agree with her. She was too smooth. Her delivery was too good. Now, in the military, you're taught. You're taught. I was taught. I don't do a very good job of it now, but you're taught how to deal with the media, how to watch your background, how to use gestures, how to use facial expressions. All that. If she wasn't taught anywhere else, she was taught in the military. So I'm not sure it's all designed by her to deceive people because she is very good at it. But her training definitely helped her. Now, I have been suspicious of her. You know, she's not a Second Amendment fan and all that. I know. But it is possible that she could have seen the error of that. Okay. So, Nancy Morganhart, Bettina, I think, was right in her initial um, evaluation of Tulsi. But in my opinion, I think Tulsi has progressed to where she sees that there are some serious problems. That's my take. I'd love to sit down with her and talk to her, but I don't have the horsepower to do that. I would sure like it though. Yeah, I know he is. Senator 9716. See, that's what I say. Alex can't go on. When he got up there and he said, no, they're killing children, they're maiming people, they're murdering us, you can't be a party to that. It's called an accessory in criminal law. If you help somebody to commit a crime, which is what you're doing when you're encouraging people like that to deal with the criminal, it's called an accessory. Accessory after the fact sometime, but it's an accessory. Not necessarily an accomplice, but certainly an accessory. In criminal law, if this ever goes to a Nuremberg deal, Alex could be brought up on charges for pushing it. Even though he disavows it, he's pushing the guy who's the father of it. He's going to be held accountable by God, if nothing else. And Alex has come too far. He's done too much good. I know. I know. Bill Cooper didn't like him, and I've had problems with him. I mean, hell, I can't even tell you some of the stuff that's happened there. Again, you wouldn't believe it. But look what he did to David Knight, because David Knight didn't want to go along with pushing the stuff that for Trump and all that election stuff that they were talking about, the stop the steal and all that. And then he basically he fired David Knight, and David and I are we're I I met him in person at Bundy Ranch. I think most of you know that, and we've kind of kept in touch over the years. And when he started his program, we got even closer. But it's all phone and text and that kind of thing. So, but David Knight is a treasure, an absolute treasure. If you don't follow him, if you don't watch his program in the morning or what he puts up in his reports later, you're really missing some important work. Information you need to do that, but Alex fired him. He needs to apologize to David Knight publicly too, and I've said that as well. Um, but Alex probably won't do it. But he absolutely, and you just said it there. Trump is still pushing it. If Alex doesn't call him out, condemn him for it, and disconnect from him, Alex is as guilty as he is. I've tried to say that. Oh, this guy CAES is back. Hi, Felicia. Yeah, I've thrown him off before. Maybe you have. Yeah, he deserves. Thank you for being here, Felicia, because I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. Especially trying to figure out how to throw people off of here. Okay. The outcome of Ukraine, I kind of covered that at the beginning. Colonel McGregor has said that the Ukrainian army is surrounded and they can easily be destroyed by the Russians at this moment. And so Zelensky is trying to negotiate a settlement. It's going to go to the Russians, and NATO is now paralyzed because of this baloney around Poland between our Secretary of State Blinken, and Nod, and and Austin and Kirby of the Defense Department. We're a laughing stock. We're a paper tiger. Everybody knows that we're done. Okay, so Russia will have what Putin. He's not going to go into Poland. He has no interest in that or Finland or anything like that. Taking back, any of those territories. No, he was just concerned about eastern Ukraine and Crimea. That's all he's concerned with. He does want to make sure that Ukraine stays neutral, that never becomes a NATO nation. If they try to do it again, I'm sure he'll react again. But he's anyway. That's where we are right now. Yeah, safe havens. Thanks, Kurt Landgraf. I appreciate that. Uh, if you looked at myself through my own eyes, I certainly don't look at it that way. I'm the army and being in the police department and all that. It teaches you self confidence. It teaches you to make decisions and all that. But I'm a very I wear my heart out on my sleeve, and I think most of the people that follow me know that. And the people that are my personal friends and all that, they know that. Even the people that worked for me know that. But I try to call it straight. I try to shoot straight, and my I guess my motto, not just on my YouTube channel there where it talks about the intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy, but my other motto, no, not prep, pray, stay out of the way. That's another one too. But one about myself personally is that I want to do the right thing even if I'm the only person to do it, regardless of the consequences. And it's cost me a lot through my life, a lot. And I've not always done that. I've slipped up here and there. But by and large, that's been my mantra. That I will stand for true principle even if I'm the only one to do it. So what you see is what you get. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I'm certainly not. Yeah, we must not lose our sense of humor, Liza Jean. Exactly. Would be interesting if you could interview Tulsi Gabbard. Like I said, I don't have the horsepower. Yeah, I mean, she's a lieutenant colonel now in the Army Reserve, which, she'll probably make full colonel. She might even get to brigadier general or further. I don't know how that'll work out with the way the country's going now. She's apparently not a team player. You can get to lieutenant colonel. After that, if you're not in there doing the same thing the New World Order wants you to do, it's real hard to go any further. No matter what you do, they put a cap on you there. But getting a lieutenant colonel is quite an accomplishment that she's done. So, I'm all for it. But her being willing to talk to me, I doubt it very seriously. I mean, a lot of people. I could tell you stories about a lot of different news commentators. Like Alex Jones, and even in the mainstream media. They've been told by some pretty high horsepower people that they should have me on and interview me, but they won't because of my personal life choices that I made when I was in my 20s. They don't like that, even though I can back it up with this. That doesn't matter. They would rather have. I'm serious about this. I even wrote a book about it in the 80s when all this happened. It was called, it's out of print now, of course, like everything else. An Offender for a Word. It wasn't what I was doing that they didn't like. It was why I did it. Why I did it was they couldn't abide by that. If I had just been doing it for my own gratification, that would have been okay, and I was told so. And that's how a lot of these people are. But because of the way I did it, why I did it, the spiritual reasons that I was trying to do it, they can't have that. That's a thought crime. So even though I was doing, there was a case in Michigan at the same time, I forget the name of the town, but there was a police officer there who was married, and he was having an affair with another woman. In the same sort of situation that I had, and they fired him. Well, my case was happening at the same time, exact same time. And we both had all the same arguments, but one. He did not have the argument of doing it for a good faith religious reason. He did not have that. He lost at the lower court level. They appealed to the circuit court. I forget the circuit court that covers Michigan, but they said that the lower court was in error and that his private life was not the business of the police department, and sent him back to work with full back pay. In my situation, I lost at the same as him. I lost at the lower court level, federal court. When it got to the circuit court, I lost there too, and you wouldn't believe what happened. They said it was because of it was the religious belief. They actually said that they did not honor that, even though I had that First Amendment argument, which was more than what I had all the same arguments as the police officer from Michigan, plus the religious freedom deal. So I appealed to the Supreme Court, and what they did was they just denied certiorari. In other words, they didn't see the case, so the circuit court and lower court decisions stood. So I didn't go back to work. But if I had said, and I was told this, if I had said that they were just girlfriends, that I was just gratifying my lusts, oh, that's okay. That's all right. You know, maybe a little slap on the hand, maybe a change in assignment or something, but nope. That's all I'll say about that. What's a thermobaric rocket? Again, weapon systems have, I'm not familiar with all the new weapon systems. I've heard about the Rod of God and all that, but a thermobaric, it's right in its name. It causes the air to get superheated around it and increases the barometric pressure, so it blows out your lungs. Is basically what it's doing. It's killing your lungs. It's making them explode. That's basically what it does. Man, I've been going for an hour and 30 minutes, guys. I didn't plan on doing that tonight. Yeah, there we go. Rolf Steiner's got it. Denoting or related to a very large fuel air bomb, which ignites into a fireball when detonated, creating a powerful wave of pressure that sucks out oxygen from any confined spaces nearby. Exactly. So you went the further distance in explaining the technological part. Yeah, basically it blows out your lungs. That's basically what it does. Well, you can't make everybody happy. Jim Mahoney says Trump ain't that bad. He was just trying to make everybody happy, which he shouldn't have done. They took over the control. Yeah, plus the fact he threw all of us under the bus trying to make the swamp happy. Yeah, it don't work. Okay, one last thing here. Oh, okay. Felicia from Lockhart Perspective is saying, was there something nefarious going on underneath Chernobyl from Sandy Aaron? I don't know. But you don't waste military resources going after something like that unless there's a very good reason. I don't know. It might have something to do with the biological weapon systems that they knew were being developed, maybe under the cover of the Chernobyl area where people aren't able to come in. Maybe there was some other things going on there. I remember somebody on Twitter or somewhere said, it was Nance. I think his name is Morgan Nance. He's a commentator on CNN or something. He's supposedly a bigwig. He doesn't know crap. And he says, Chernobyl's the most important power plant in Ukraine. It supplies power to Eastern Europe. And apparently he didn't know the thing was a nuclear accident and not operational. So no, it didn't have to do with shutting down energy or controlling the electrical grid or anything like that. There was something else there that the Russians knew about, and it could just be that they figured if they used that as a headquarters to control all of their military operations, that chances were that nobody was going to come in there and bother them. I don't know. So I wish I could tell you, but it's something along those lines. Okay, something along all those lines. Either something was going on there that they had to get, or they were using it as as a place to secure their command and control, the Combat Operations Center. Okay. Yes, they can, I would suspect. Fuel air bombs look like, yeah, they could. I would think that they could because of the way they operate. All right, I'm going to cut it off now. I've kept you too long. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Again, read that article in the description box on Colonel McGregor. And again, the only place I disagree with him on is where he says that the Russians are a smaller army than the United States and NATO combined. But primarily, we're talking about, Russia and the United States. That our military is larger. That has not been. Mass is important as a principle of war, but it's not always a deciding factor. Okay, and for all the reasons I've talked about tonight, with the weaknesses in the U.S. establishment and in the military, I still maintain that in a one-for-one fight, the Russians would kick our butt. Okay. We haven't had a success. Well, they didn't have a successful thing in Afghanistan either, so that's not really, I suppose, not really fair. But you got to understand that when they were there, we were actually fighting them. It was a proxy war like Ukraine is, right? We were arming the Taliban. So, you can't really say the Afghanistan thing on the Russians' part was really a good measuring stick. We've lost lots more than the Russians have. Look at the debacle in Korea, Vietnam. Go all the way up through, and we could talk about, we had what appeared to be a win in the Gulf War in '91, but when you really understand what happened there, that was baited. I was at the Command General Staff College when we got the briefing that Hussein was baited into that. So we set a trap. It wasn't really a fair fight. And then, of course, you have the second Gulf War, and that debacle. You have, all the crazy stuff going on. We really didn't win that. It turned into a guerrilla war, and it's still a problem. You had the situation in Afghanistan. You know what happened there this last, where they pulled out and they left all the equipment at Bagram Air Force, all that. We haven't had a really successful military operation in 60 years. Plain and simple. By design. Okay, everybody, thanks for being here. I am going to close it down. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. It's going to get... Hi, Roosevelt, you made it. Yeah, sorry I didn't tell you. I wasn't really anticipating this was going to go this long. I was just going to say a few things and be gone, but so I'm glad you're here. Prep, pray, stay out of the way, but self-defense is legitimate. I don't care who's attacking you. I don't care who is attacking you or your children. You have a right to self-defense. To hell with them otherwise. Same to you, Roosevelt. The military draft, I've already told everybody, don't do that. And Colonel Maine has said the same thing. The U.S. Air Force colonel said, don't go into the military now. It's not for us, which is what it's supposed to be. It's for the bankers and it's for the New World Order. You stay away from it. If you're in it, do everything you can to get out of it. The U.S. military is now an enemy of the American people. People are, oh no, that can't be. Yeah, it can, and it is. Do not let your sons and daughters enlist or get drafted, especially your daughters. You'll forever... Got to be careful, I'll lose my temper. You'll forever hate yourself if you let them do that. If they go against your wishes, do everything you can to dissuade them. You can't take away their free agency. But if you encourage them to do that, you're being evil at this point. All right, everybody. I think I gave all my little mantras there. Do a lot of praying at this point. Pray all day long. You don't have to make it formal. Just keep asking God to help us to get through this, give us the discernment we need, the help we need to deal with things that are happening We can't depend on D.C. We can't depend on our governors. We can't depend on the sheriff. We got to depend on God, okay? He might use a sheriff, he might use somebody, but you need to have that connection, okay? So let's do that. And I'm not saying I'm all that good at it. That was another thing that came up on Twitter this week about, what I think of Jesus. I've already talked about that. But anyway, yeah, pray without ceasing. It doesn't have to be formal. Just talk to God like you talk to your dad. They accused James of that. They said, why are you talking to the great eternal as if he's your father? Do that, okay? Do that. All right, everybody, take care. Talk to you next time out here.